Defenseman and aspiring actor PK Subban received his third fine this year for diving, getting docked $3,000, which, by the way, is parking meter money for PK. Is the NHL too soft on diving, or should they be upping the ante when it comes to discipline? As always, we invite you to join us on our social networks at facebook.com/RBTLSports, as well as on Twitter at RBTL Sports. Welcome to the show, Anthony Cornell. You always looking good. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
To your right is Nicolas Boulay, member of the Montreal Alouettes. And by the way, I am challenging you at a game of NFL Blitz. I know you're quite the video gamer. Are you down for the challenge?
I am, absolutely.
Love it. To your right is David Hurley. Great to see you, RBTL contributor.
Glad to be back.
All right, PK Subban. It's the third time in less than 3 months. No suspension. Quite surprising. The NHL's got to do something.
Well, they do have to do something. I mean, they have to. Well, the players need to thank Donald Fur first of all, because they're not even getting docked 10% or 50% of their salaries, and it's on a daily salary. It's not a game check. So a 1% of PK's $9 million salary would be a good fine, but unfortunately, it's nothing. It's peanuts for them.
And if he does do it again, then supposedly Michel Therrien gets fined $2,000 or $4,000, one of the two, which is nice.
I still don't understand that ruling. I mean, players on the ice are trying to get their extra edge. I mean, you're a professional athlete. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all try to bend the rules even in men's league hockey to get that edge. $3,000 to PK Subban is what, a couple nights out at Buonanotte? You know, I mean, it's not going to change
maybe one
anything.
night out.
Maybe a half hour.
So why does the coach have to pay for his angst on the ice?
They shouldn't have to pay for that, and I think it comes to the organization. And I mean, I don't know how it is in the CFL, but I'm sure that if you were to get fined, it's going to be a lot more than $3,000 for your third offense.
I think percentage-wise,
It might not be.
I think it's a little bit more than their fines, but definitely, I think it's honestly, if you can get away with a penalty like that, you know, and
They're looking for the edge.
it can change the game.
But as an athlete, what do you think of guys like that?
I mean, of course, I'm sure hockey, they don't want it to become like soccer, where you have guys diving all over the place, right? That's what they don't want it to become. But I think they always say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You're always trying to bend the rules,
Right,
like we were saying earlier. Always trying to get the extra penalty, and become a 5-against-4, and it can change the game completely.
He's absolutely right, and you look at the Boston Bruins and the way that they talk about the Montreal Canadiens. We're known throughout the NHL as Montreal, the Canadian
Boston
fans.
Bruins and Brad Marchand's
Yeah, but the Bruins, but the Habs
league.
are just people in Montreal do have blinders to it because it is the team that they support. But Montreal is pretty bad when it comes to diving. So are the Bruins. So are pretty much every team now in the NHL. I mean, Sidney Crosby cries foul. If a guy comes next to him, he's on the floor. I mean, it's just the way that the game is. And like you said, if you get that extra opportunity to get a power play, that could change the momentum of a game.
I just think we're putting too much on this embellishment and how bad it is for the league. I mean, I'm a soccer guy, and I know that in soccer the embellishment is terrible. But the video replays in hockey are just so quick. I rewatched all of PK Subban's fines this year. You know, they're coming off, trips or hooks that you can barely tell. How is the league going back and reviewing this?
You look at it this week, Michel Therrien was holding back laughter after a penalty was called on PK Subban. He dove again afterwards. You see Michel Therrien behind the bench holding back, cracking up. There's something to be said about that.
Do you guys disagree or agree that the next level, should it need 3 infractions or 3 times where somebody needs to be caught for there to finally be a suspension? I mean, the fines are not working. The fines are a drop in the bucket, as you said. Maybe a CFL player, in their own respect, in their own way, might double think it because of the salaries you guys make versus NHL players. Is suspensions the only way to go to make sure we nip this in the bud, as they say, right from the get-go?
I personally think it would be a good idea. I mean, it'll start to really kill the momentum when it comes to diving in the NHL and turn it back to the purity of the sport, where guys are tough and going to the net hard, and what happens, and the penalties will be called. But again, like he said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
You think there's a little bit of nitpicking going on because it's PK Subban? People are trying to find a little
I
hit
mean,
with
everybody
PK?
tries to hate on the best player, right? So, I mean, he's a hard worker. He's a guy that, has been making plays. He's been having a great season so far. I don't think money is an issue. I don't think if you raise the fines, I don't think it's going to change anything. You could maybe raise the penalty time to 4 minutes. Maybe that could be something.
That could be something.
That could be
actually
interesting. Yeah.
I mean, but I don't think you deserve to be suspended for something like that. I mean, it's there's so many other things that could suspend guys for on the ice. I don't think this should be one of them.
Well, I'm not hating on you because you're the best player so far today. Great to have you. Stay with
Thank
us. Read Between the Lines continues. You don't want to miss it. 4 Downs continues after the break.
Read Between the Lines is brought to you by LavalCosm.com. It's ball hockey time.
With players hanging them up early due to health worries, this offseason has seen the NFL produce more retirees than a nursing home. Is this just a freak month, or does the league have to do some damage control? We welcome back Anthony Cornell, RBTL contributor, member of the Montreal Alouettes, Nicolas Boulay, and David Hurley. Are you surprised with him announcing his retirement this early, this young, with so much potential ahead of him?
Honestly, no. I don't think so. I mean, the average career for NFL players is 3.3 years. 3.3 years. People don't realize it, but it's really, really short. And you've seen a lot of guys just go under the radar, retire, and you don't hear about it because they're not studs. They're just there's every other player or whatever, and you see it going like that. And some of these guys start playing football when they're 10 years old. So when they get to the pros, they're 24, 25. They've been playing for about 15 years. Yeah. Their body's hurting. And the grind and the work you have to put in just to be ready for the next season. And you have the young guns coming in that's pushing behind you, and you're trying to make keep that spot for yourself. In NFL, the competition is so fierce. You have so many players coming out of so many good schools that are there's so many of them that it's.
But some would argue though that a big reason why he made this decision or was able to make this decision is because of his privileged background, right? Yeah. Some would say, you come from a different neck of the woods, you might not necessarily have that option.
You have the Tim Hightowers of the Arizona Cardinals coming out and saying, this guy's putting a bad name to football by taking a retirement so early. Some of these guys don't have the fortunate background or the fortunate money situations where they could afford to do this. Some of these guys also have a very lavish lifestyle that they go out, they party hard, and they make good money, but also when you retire, that money goes by pretty quick. So what they have to do is they really have to be a lot smarter, and I think that's what Borland did.
In this situation, I just feel bad for all the ex-NFL players or ex-CFL players that played 10, 12 years in the league in the glory days, that they trained with injuries, broken bones, and they made peanuts. Yeah. And nowadays, I kind of respect the decision that he backed away from football. Not everybody has the luxury of being from a good family. Like you said, a lot of the lower income families that their players had no choice but to come out of the ghetto almost to make the NFL and whatnot and support the family. So I just feel bad for the old timers.
Listen, I also think though that the players are a lot more educated. We're seeing it a lot more now with the CTEs coming out. You have players, they're killing themselves because of the traumatic stress, to so much trauma to one's brain from concussions.
But I don't think the studies, football.
They're not even there yet. They're not there yet.
But football is a violent sport.
Absolutely.
Period. So you can talk about safety control till you're blue in the face. You can talk about safety measures, precautions, education. But at the end of the day, there's a cost here that there's an opportunity
and
cost.
I think we're talking a lot about money. We're talking about future and all that. But I think for some of these guys, sometimes they just lose the flame. It could just be that. Yeah. They get to that point. They've been playing for 15 years. They just wanted to prove to themselves they could make it to the pros. And once they're there, it's like they don't have anything else to accomplish. And it's like, I already got a good life set up. I've got a bachelor degree in finance or in whatever, and I'm just gonna go ahead and go do that because I love doing that as much as I love doing my sport, but it's less risky.
I'm sure you see a lot of guys who are hurt. When you see these guys take a hit, you kind of look back and you're like, yeah, that's a concussion, 100% concussion. Yet, because of what you mentioned before, that these guys have to play through and have to get on the field, they don't want to lose their position. Do you think that culture will ever change? Do you think there's ever going to be a moment where players collectively will say, hey, you know what? I'm not going out there, and I'm not going to play under these circumstances.
I think the concussion protocol is getting better and better than it was actually. Just now, they're making sure we're more and more educated on concussions, so players now know when they have a concussion and actually will know to take themselves out sometimes.
But then as a professional, you were talking about it before.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Sure. I don't know what they're doing in the CFL, but in the NFL last year alone, they invested $16 million on research. The concussions were down, I believe, to 13% from the year before.
I think, if anything...
NFL cares.
Yeah, the NFL cares, but the CFL cares as well. All the professional leagues are taking the proper steps into bettering themselves because they're getting sued left, right, and center. I think what the biggest thing is the players have to educate themselves, and like he's saying, the leagues are doing that for you guys, and that's fantastic because I mean, you guys don't want to be punch drunk. You don't want to wake up at 50 years old and not able to remember your son's
But
name.
do the leagues really care, or are they just protecting their asset, which is their players?
No,
their players sell the
they're
big
protecting
tickets,
their
the
asset,
players
which
sell
is
the
their
network games.
owners' pocketbooks. The players are a pawn towards getting them the money. These guys are the guys that go through the whole grunt of it all. It's tough on them. So I'm happy that they're educating you guys a little bit more to give you a better
A
lifestyle
lot of
afterwards.
times what happened was guys would get concussions and either wouldn't tell or would tell, but would go back to the play too early. And that's when you get your second concussion and third concussion, and they're usually worse than the first one.
Career ending.
And your livelihood's on the line too.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Gentlemen, we're continuing the conversation. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. As we come back from break, we're talking a little bit of soccer, MLS, and the Montreal Impact. Don't go anywhere.
Read Between the Lines is brought to you by EliteSportsTours.ca. What are you doing this weekend?
With the loss of rookie and semifinal hero Cameron Porter injury, will the Impact have gone through their ninth life? With injuries piling up like pancakes, who, if anybody, could step up? We welcome back Anthony Cornell, Nicolas Boulay, member of the Montreal Alouettes, and David Hurley. All right, this is a huge game for the Impact, a huge season for the Impact, but even more important, semifinal. Do they stand a chance without their superstar, out of the night kind of guy?
They will need Nacho Piatti to have another big game. He was really the big star in that first leg. He played lights out, but it did help to have Cameron Porter play the way that he did. He was attacking it, and you know it as a soccer guy. His force was attacking the defenders, keeping them honest all game was a big force to the Montreal Impact. I don't think Jack Mack can do it. Where do you think they can go?
What he did in the 18 minutes in the semifinal was very impressive. In Italy, we call them attaccandi di sfondamento. Basically, they press high. Like you said, they keep the defenses humble, and he allows the midfield to work the ball around. I don't think Jack Mack has been the player that we thought he was going to be coming over in the trade. And with DiVaio gone, we have to fill that void. I don't think that a 21-year-old Porter out of college, had a couple of good games, is the answer. And with
But he does look promising.
He did fill the void.
Take a look at the way he started his first 10 minutes, considering how important of a game that was and how he conducted himself. That, to me, is worth more than 10 years worth of experience. You need a guy that can handle those situations right from the get-go early on in his career. That's what, to me, was the most motivational thing about
taking the goal. Take Piatti's goal. He went, he dummied the ball in the
let
box.
it go.
That's a very comfortable move.
Mm-hmm.
You dummy that ball and a defender picks it up and clears it, you look like a complete idiot. But he dummied that ball. He was comfortable. Piatti picked it up.
Incredibly cocky or incredibly confident, as they say.
Well, we were talking about it when I was interviewing them in the locker room. He actually said that in practice, when you have that opportunity, you let it go, especially when you have Piatti on the side. That guy's just a striker. He can do anything he wants with that ball. He's the best, by far the best player that we have. A guy who's going to need to step up is Andreas Romero, who was the MVP last season. He's came back from injury this week. He had a good 20 minutes against Philadelphia. Now can he do it, get into form for that second leg of the semifinal in Costa Rica?
You guys tend to have a tendency of supporting each other's teams, the Alouettes,
Absolutely.
the Impact. What do you think of the Impact this year?
We're trying to find maybe a Band-Aid for the Impact for right now. A guy that has been on the sideline for the past year that people don't really know of is Blake Smith.
Yeah, Blake Smith.
We talked about him.
Eighth round draft pick 2 years ago. Guy that had been playing 18 games in his first 2 years. Was a great player. He's a guy who can play midfield, he can play wing, he can play forward, and has kind of been left out. So maybe it's an opportunity for him to come in and show what he can do. And
we talked about that several weeks ago. We said that Blake
Smith definitely he could play an important role, and it almost feels like the pieces of the puzzle are settling in now. They're going to have to get really, really creative in terms of not only playing more as a unit now more than ever with the loss of Cameron Porter and Justin
The question
Mapp.
is, with the loss of Cameron Porter, can they step
and
up?
Justin Mapp as well.
And
Justin
Oduro
Mapp,
too, who got hurt as well.
Oduro is a pile of bricks. I have better foot control than Oduro. I mean, with Justin Mapp going down, I'm not a big Justin Mapp fan, but he was one of the only players that actually gets the ball up down that line. He has an issue with crossing, but he is one of our dangerous players. The transfer window opens up in the MLS, I think, at the end of June.
Yeah.
They're looking at a couple of players out of Europe. I think that's the move they need to do to take this.
They need a DP.
They need a number 9. DiVaio's jersey is hurting.